Nightwork, a Dave Brandstetter mystery. Author Joseph Hansen. Publisher Open Road Integrated Media. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 9. The van climbed through a crooked pass where ragged rocks thrust up high and cramped the narrow road, and here was the valley. The hills all around were brown, brushy, strewn with bleached boulders. The valley itself was green with groves and meadows, but the sky was hard as he remembered a relentless southwest blue-yellow heat in it. Even so early in the morning, twice Cecil had come out of the back, bored with lying on the couch, watching the coastline, the stucco roadside motels and eateries, the monotonous blue glitter of the Pacific, bored with the magazines. He'd brought the cassettes. Dave had sent him back. Now he came out again and dropped his lanky self into the passenger seat. Dave glanced at him. He looked all right. When he was tired, like last night, by the time they'd finished dinner at Max's, his skin took on a dry, dusty finish. It glowed now, and his eyes were clear. "Pretty," he said. "Picture postcard." He saw something, bent forward, peered upward through the windshield. "Look at that! Hawk circling." "Halcon," Dave said. "That's the name of the place." He saw the hawk and remembered another time when he'd seen a hawk against a sky like this from the top of a bare, brown mountain back of Sangre de Cristo up the coast. He'd parked his car outside a bleak concrete block building there. A television station where a few minutes later he was to encounter Cecil for the first time. He told Cecil about this now. "Maybe it means good luck." Cecil smiled. "You know it means good luck." The road sloped down to the valley floor. The tiny rows of round and glossy orange trees looked as if Grant Wood had painted them. Sprinkler pipes worked among the avocado trees, whose branches drooped and tangled beneath them. The light was undersea light on tilting sun-swept pastures. Rainbird sprinklers cast sparkling arcs, strewing the grass with emeralds under the hoofs of stocky black cattle that browsed and did not look up as the van passed. White letters on a modest green sign read Halcon, and here, in the long morning shadows of old live oaks, buildings clustered, metal filling stations, a railroad car diner, a bat and board tavern with cores and red neon. In the window, the general store was barn red shiplap, with a long plank front porch and a neat red, white, and blue enamel sign. The U.S. Post Office. Dave wheeled the van onto gravel and parked at the end of the long building. He opened the door and stepped stiffly down, glad for the chance to stretch his legs. Man, a bullet whined past. Cecil called, "Look out! They're shooting at us!" And Dave lay on the ground, the side of his face stung by gravel and by the sharp, dry, curled little leaves of the oaks. Far off, he heard shots. 4, 5. He flinched, waiting for the bullets to strike him, to kick up gravel around him, to bore into the sleek metal of the van, to plunk into the crooked gray boles of the oaks. Nothing like that happened. The distant gunfire ceased. Silence. A meadowlark sang. Nearer, a rooster crowed. Dave turned his head and called, "Are you all right?" "I want to go back to the news business," Cecil said. "Where are you? Your voice sounds funny." "I'm in here with my face in the carpet," Cecil said. "That can mess up your diction worse than a course in Afro-American English." "Stay there," and Dave rose cautiously. Gravel clung to his face, the heels of his hands. He brushed it off. The van door hung open. He brought his eyes to window level and looked out past the oaks. Flat land stretched away, empty in the sun. Chain-link fencing glinted far off. He wished he had DeWitt Gifford's binoculars. Did tiny figures move out there against the dark brown background of the mountains? Was that a line of parked automobiles? Yes. Sunshine glanced off a window pane. A moment later, dust rose and traveled. A car the size of an ant crawled off. A second, A third. The line of dust stretched out along the foot of the hills. And when it settled, he saw no parked cars. He drew a deep breath, straightened, and looked into the van. Cecil had done his panicked best to fit his gangly body under the control panel. And Dave reached across and touched him. All clear, he said. Cecil looked up, forehead wrinkled. Who was it? Too far away to tell, Dave said. Come on. Their heels drummed hollowly on the planks of the long porch, past a screen door across which angled a shiny metal bar printed Drink Dr. Pepper. Was a wooden door with a top panel of glass. Inside the glass hung a sign. Closed. Sorry we missed you. Please call again. Dave read his watch. 2 minutes past 9. He went on along the porch with Cecil following. The plank steps went down, and so did they. Behind the store, a frame cottage stood inside a picket fenced yard. The house was barn red like the store. So was the fence. Grass grew in front of the house in a bar side yard. White hens pecked near a doghouse that bore the name Digger. From a cleat beside the doghouse door, a rusty chain hung dragging in the dust. Dave reached over the gate to work the latch when the house door opened, and a stocky brown man came out, buttoning a red and black checkered flannel shirt. His hair was cropped close to his scalp. He pulled the door shut, turned, and gave a little jerk of surprise when he saw Dave and Cecil. He was short, but with a big man's chest and shoulders. He came to the gate, bandy-legged in cowboy boots. What can I do for you? Tell us about the sharpshooters, Dave said. The man glanced over his shoulder. They out there again? A bullet just missed us, Cecil said. Damn. And with an apology. I didn't hear them. He unlatched the gate. Did they quit at 9? And not a moment too soon, Dave said. It's the sheriff's rifle range. The man let the gate fall shut and walked toward the front of the store. Dave and Cecil followed, above the beat of their footfalls on the planks. The man said, Been there 40, 50 years, but I don't think rifles filed so far then. He jingled keys, unlocked the door of the store, and, with the scuffed, pointed tip of a boot, kicked a brown rubber wedge under the door to keep it open. No limit to them now, all the way to Moscow. The store was gloomy and smelled of onions, cheese, new blue jeans. The man followed a crowded aisle of canned goods, soup, baked beans, chili, spam, on shelves and in cartons on the floor. He passed out of sight. Around a stack of new bushel baskets, a cash register beeped. Dodging rakes, hose, brooms, hanging from rafters, Dave and Cecil went after him. He stood behind a counter on whose front a faded sign read, Kerosene. Open boxes of candy bars and chewing gum. Digestive tablets lay on the counter. On little wire racks hung cellophane packets of beef jerky, yellow envelopes of corn chips. At his back, shelves held bottles, whiskey, rum, gin, vodka. Cigarette packs were pigeonholed. The man dug a wad of currency from a pocket of his Levi's and sorted the bills into compartments in the shallow, gray metal drawer of an electronic cash register. What I think, he said, is they want me out of here. A fellow got shot right outside here 4 months ago. Walked out with 2 sacks of steer manure to his car, and a bullet hit him. He still don't walk right. They killed my dog. Is there anything you can do? Dave said. This is the main road, Cecil said. People could get hit in their cars. They have to quit at 9 now, the man said. That was all I could get. County supervisors told them they could only use it in the morning, when there's nobody around. A digger wasn't nobody, just a dog. They didn't give a damn about a dog. He pushed the cash drawer shut angrily, and the machine emitted a stutter of protesting beeps. People around here tell me to go to court. Sue! A wry smile twitched his mouth. I say I'm no Sue, I'm a Ute. He sobered. How much do I sue for? Money's not going to get me Digger back. He's dead. Anyway, the lawyers would get all the money, and I Haven't got time to hang around courthouses. I got a store to run. And a post office, Dave said. From a shirt pocket, he took the slip of paper on which Luther Prentice had written Luella Bishop's address. Can you tell me how to find this place? He held up the slip. The man rummaged under the counter for dime store reading glasses, put them on, took the slip, peered at it. Oh, sure. He turned the paper over and, with a ballpoint pen from a plastic cup on the counter, drew a map. There you go. He handed the paper back to Dave, dropped the pen back into the cup, which had a round, yellow, 29-cent each sign pasted to it. Nice lady, Mrs. Bishop. Comes in here a lot. Shops for the Hutchings. Funny thing, you're the second ones to come looking for her. He eyed Cecil. You're a relative? Cecil shook his head. A friend, he said. And Dave said, let me tell you who the others were who came looking for her last evening, was it? I keep open till 9. Folks forget things. And I'm the only store. They'd have to drive clear up through the pass to town if it wasn't for me. A stocky woman, Dave said. Middle-aged, well-dressed. A pair of big men with hergroons. I drove a white, unmarked van, the storekeeper said. Right. Dave turned away. Thank you. They called her Duchess, the storekeeper said. As she wanted to buy the truck, Luella Bishop's haunches were vast as she meant to set breakfast soiled plates, cups, saucers, in the white racks of a dishwasher. Her upper arms were thick as a man's thigh, and their flesh jiggled above the dishwasher. Twin stainless steel sinks were set in a surround of flour-painted shiny Mexican tiles. The electric stove was so surrounded above in a dark copper-lined hood, whose ventilator pipe went up among black rafters. The walls of the kitchen were roughly plastered and very white. The floor was waxed squares of terracotta. In planters outside deep-set windows, geraniums grew intensely green and red in the morning sunshine. Luella Bishop rolled the rack back into place, its glassy burden jingling, and closed the dishwasher door. With a wheeze of breath, she straightened up. And she bought it. Nothing more to tell. Why'd you sell it? Dave and Cecil sat at a plank table of wood, almost as dark as the rafters, built sometime in the 1920s, to imitate a refectory table from a California mission. Coffee mugs were in front of them. I thought your husband's plan was for Melville to begin driving as soon as he got out of high school. His plan was not to cough and choke himself to death at an early age, Luella Bishop said. To die in convulsions in the middle of the night, and he gone now. And it's me that's going to do the planning now. And it is no way in my plans for Melville to end up like his father. The doctor said it was a heart attack. Dr. Kretschmer, the one who came to your house in Gifford Gardens, the one you called. He didn't put anything about convulsions on the death certificate. I see. He came home one morning, about 3 o'clock, 3:30. He was working nights, to get extra money. They put on all these new taxes, license, tires, no end to it. And he was trying to put money by so as to get another truck. Like I say, for Melville, when the time came. He wanted to get his education first. Anyway, she filled a mug from a pottery urn and brought it to the table, lowered her bulk onto a chair. Ossie was sick. Stumbled in the door, looked like death. Couldn't catch his breath. Says he had to get to the bathroom, but he couldn't get across the kitchen. Fell to his hands and knees. Soiled himself like a little child. Oh, I tell you, that man was sick. And she wagged her head gloomily and sipped her coffee. Doctor came and gave him a shot, and that cleared up the trouble with his bowels. Dr. Hobart, Dave asked. She looked at him sharply. Ossie say, no, Dr. Hobart. Say to call this here Dr. Kretschmer. Something to do with the night work. Had to do how to be secret. Had to be secret. I shouldn't be telling you now. I'm talking too much. Did the Duchess come with him that time? as she stirred on the chair, shifting from one mighty flank to the other. She drew a deep breath. Her big bosom rose with it. I think you better go now. Oh, what's her real name? Cecil said. It seemed like Ossie was going to get better after that, Luella Bishop said. But it wasn't more than a few days and he was dead, Dave said. Did Paul Myers come to see your husband when he was sick? She frowned. You say they blew him up. Who do you think they were? The Duchess and her strong-arm boys? She opened her mouth to answer, but she caught herself. Yes, Paul K. He was a true friend. He had this here magazine with him, something about science. I don't know what they talked about. That's the truth. Paul closed the door, and they spoke low. When he left, he was pale, and he was angry. She put her hands flat on the table and heaved herself to her feet. You best go now. I have a whole big house to clean. Why? Cecil said. You got a lot of money for that truck. Stands to reason. And what about all the money your husband saved? Moonlighting. I've got children to raise and send through school. Melville's going to college. Be something. It's a good place to raise children down here. She rinsed a yellow cellulose sponge at the sink and wiped the handsome tiles. I worked for the Hutchins before I got married, says Luella. If ever you want to come back, you come. You're a part of this family, and you always will be. And they meant it, too. She glanced at Cecil. Lord, child, I can't be idle the rest of my days. A person has to work. Dave rose. Thank you for your time. He took his coffee mug and Cecil's to the sinks and set them there. You have no idea who would have wanted to kill Paul Myers? It didn't occur to you that your husband's death wasn't natural. There is no Dr. Kretschmer, you know. She was wiping the handles of a cupboard doors. She frowned at him. I seen him plain as I see you now. He has no address, no telephone number, and no Ford T. Kretschmer is licensed to practice medicine in the state of California. Luella Bishop gave no sign that she was listening. She wiped drawer pulls. Dave said, the Duchess and her handyman beat up Angela Myers a short time before Paul was killed. These are bad people, Mrs. Bishop. You shouldn't protect them. What was your husband hauling for them? Cecil said. The massive woman gave him a brief, dismissive blink. At the sink, she rinsed the sponge again, and then took it to the table. And bent over the table and began wiping the glossy old planks. She asked Dave, did Angela Myers tell you it was them that beat her up? I have a witness. No, she didn't tell me. And why not? Luella Bishop straightened her back and faced Dave, calm monumental fist on her hips. Because she know worse could happen, Cecil said. Worse than having her husband killed? She got little children, same as me. Luella Bishop set the chairs neatly at the table. None of them got any daddy to look out for them now. And nobody but Mama. She threw Dave a look of sour reproach. You think I don't know what kind of people they are? Someone has to stop them, Dave said. What's her name? She had to sign the check for the truck. Wasn't no check, she said. She brought cash. High school boys in gym trunks collided with each other, dodged and ducked each other, bounced a basketball, threw a basketball, waved their arms, missed the hoop on sun-baked asphalt. Beyond a chain-link fence, their trunks were shiny green. Their skins were shiny with sweat. Up in Los Angeles these days, teenage boys cut their hair short, 1930 style. Here in the boonies, they still wore it long and floppy. Its color ranged from taffy to white, and the skin colors too. But there were two brown-skinned boys and one with black skin. This was Melville Bishop. He was thickly built, basketball. It wouldn't be his true game. If he had a true game, he looked like a wrestler or a shot putter. He stood by a bench under an old pepper tree and talked to Cecil. Dave watched from the van across the street. Melville looked sulkily. He kept shaking his head. At last, With a bony shrug and a lazy lift of his hand, Cecil came away. He climbed into the cold, conditioned air of the van, looking disgusted. "Don't help my being black," he said. "He still would have talked more to you than he did to me." He never saw the Duchess before last night, never saw the phony doctor, never saw the heavies. His father died of a heart attack. He never said what he was hauling in his truck at night, or who he was working for. The old preacher's lying. Melville never said anything to his mother about any doctor at any grave. Luella Bishop is just plain scared. Melville, I'd say he was scared with all the extras. "You want to drive now?" Dave said. Cecil brightened. "All the way home?" "Until you get tired," Dave said. They changed seats, and Cecil started the engine. Why did the Duchess buy that truck? He released the parking brake, frowned into the side mirror, steered the van down the sleepy morning street past old white frame cottages. A dog ran out and raced beside them, barking and trying to nip the tires. "Jesus!" Cecil twisted the steering wheel. Left, right, the tire squealed. "That is one ignorant dog, going to get himself killed." Sweat broke out on Cecil's forehead. He pawed for the buttons that controlled the windows. His window slid down. "Get away, fool! Get away!" He tramped on the brakes. "Take it easy," Dave said. "He'll be all right." It was the end of the dog's block. He left off barking and chasing, trotted back across the street, and went uphill along the sidewalk, strewn with bright children's toys. His plumy tail waving, Cecil leaned his head on the steering wheel. He was trembling. "Shit," he said. He sat up and, for a moment, stared straight ahead. Through the wind chill he shivered, eyes shut. He drew in air deeply, held it, blew it out. He didn't stop his trembling. Dave touched him. He looked at Dave. Tears were in his eyes. "I can't do it. Can't even drive a car anymore." "You can," Dave said. "Of course you can. Just get your composure back. Now, it's all right. Everything's cool. The dog is fine. No harm done." But Cecil shook his head and lifted his butt off the dark blue velvet of the driver's seat. Dave swiveled aside, then slid back of him and sat behind the wheel. Cecil sat in the passenger seat, long fingers interlaced hard between his knees. He sat looking down at his hands and said nothing. Dave got the van to Main Street, with its sallow brick and bright signs and dusty pickup trucks and shiny shopping carts. He got the van out of town. Brown hills on the right, blue glitter of ocean on the left. He looked at Cecil. His eyes were closed again. Tears ran down his face. Tissues were in a dark blue box on the control panel. Dave pulled two out and nudged Cecil with the hand that held the tissues. Cecil opened his eyes, mutely accepted the tissues, wiped his face, dropped the wet tissues into the blue trash receptacle, clasped his hands between his knees again, slumped in the seat, chin on his chest. "We could stop for a drink," Dave said. "Will that help?" Cecil said, "You don't understand, do you?" "I'd like to," Dave said. "Why don't you make me?" Cecil managed a damp, crooked smile. "I'll make you later. Now I'll explain." He looked somber. "You know what is going to happen to me if a bullet ever comes at me again. I'm going to die. I don't mean if it hits me. If it hits me or not, I am going to die. Rifle range shit." "You held up fine all morning," Dave said. "What kind of dog do you think Digger was?" "And they killed my dog," the man said. Cecil swiveled the seat, stared straight ahead again. Fingers of both hands pressed flat against his mouth, tears running again. At last he dropped his hands. He drew a long, shuddering breath. When he said that, I could feel the bullet going in. "I don't want to kill anybody's dog." "Right," Dave said, and handed him more tissues. Cecil dried his eyes and blew his nose. He dropped the used tissues into the blue bin. "Why did the Duchess buy that truck?" he said. "Why now? Why not before? This is a long way to come." "Since she got here before 9, Dave said. "She must have left L.A. About the time of the afternoon news, when they said the sheriff didn't think it was an accident anymore. What happened to Paul Myers? So, what happened to Ossie Bishop wasn't an accident either. And the truck has got evidence in it of that. Dave smiled. You have a future in this business. If I can keep away from bullets, Cecil said. If I can keep away from dogs. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.